Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, Season of Heathens, where I share my experience in a religious cult, the Independent Fundamentalist Baptist Church. For 10 years I was told how to think, what to wear, and to trust the headship of our family without question, the same man that abused us and whom I eventually divorced. Today we're talking about how being in the cult affected my relationship with others outside the cult who knew me before I joined, what they are like today, and whether or not I still maintain friendships with those still in it. So to begin, friendships outside of fundamentalism are generally considered a bad idea due to the risk of worldly influence and it being a stumbling block to your own walk of faith, meaning just being around them or seeing their posts on social media could cause you to sin. There were sort of exceptions to the rule. Say a family from the bus ministry started coming to services. Of course, you should always be kind and welcoming, but there is an unspoken boundary to not get too close. They don't dress right, speak right, or watch appropriate television, or listen to godly music. We must separate ourselves so they can truly see how God has changed us. Protect your testimony at all costs. Nard was constantly pressuring me to limit my friendships with people and remove them from my social media. While he had almost successfully driven a wedge between my mother and I when we were dating, it had mended since then and I was, and still remain, very close to my mom. I never spoke badly about Nard to her. On the other hand, he would run to her or pastor whenever he perceived me stepping out of line. As a mother to my children, the church teaches umbrella theory. The children are under the mother, who is under her husband, all of which are under God. While it was never stated outright, children are treated more or less as commodities and a representation of your ability to parent correctly. In the cult, I was a shit mom. My biggest concern was keeping the children in line so I wouldn't have to hear about it from my husband, and he would go on for hours. Alternatively, I downplayed a lot of their behaviors or made excuses for them so their punishment wouldn't be overly harsh, as it was most of the time. For example, when my number 3 kid was 6 or 7 years old at a private Christian school, they were curious about the opposite-sex bathroom and took a peek. The administrator contacted my ex-husband in all his righteous indignation, as if a small child who was sheltered from everything could understand sex and perversion. My ex-husband, equally enraged, proceeded to spank my child. Children are curious by nature, and if you act dramatic and secretive about a topic, they're bound to investigate. It's a bathroom, not a secret wonderland. My kid probably thought there was candy in there or something. Of course, I had no say in the matter of discipline at the time. While I wouldn't consider myself to be the best parent now, I do try to explain cause and effect. The bathroom is a private place, so we want to be respectful of others, is generally how I would approach that situation now, and answer any questions they would have. I give guidance and share my experiences, and it's up to each of my children to either take it or leave it. Sometimes they discover the consequences of their actions, so we discuss that too. I try to humanize myself to them. Mistakes are a part of learning, and I'm not perfect. One of my biggest regrets was allowing Nard to convince me to stop letting my older kids see their grandparents, my in-laws from my first marriage. It was a hot-button topic, and we were always arguing about it. Every summer when my older kids would come back from visiting them, Nard would interrogate them for hours, trying to find any little thing he could bring to the pastor or me to twist into something horrible and wicked. I finally gave in, much against my better judgment. I was told that to disobey my husband was to disobey God. When I finally decided to leave Nard, I secretly contacted them and apologized for everything. They were one of the very, very few that I told about my plan to take the kids and leave. I never deserved their forgiveness, but they gave it fully. I will always be grateful to them. Recently, the grandmother shared a memory on Facebook and tagged me in it. At the time, I had sent her a small gift as something of an olive branch to let her know I still cared. Things with Nard had been getting worse, and I was resisting his increasingly stupid demands. The grandmother wrote in the post that she knew how risky it was for me to send it. I told her it was more than worth it. Even though I wasn't close with a lot of people at my old church, the one I spoke about in my previous MLM video, there were 2 women that I considered my true friends. I spoke candidly with them about my marriage and other things I was struggling with, always very careful not to speak badly of Nard and admit my own faults too. They shared their troubles with me, and I felt that they saw the real me and loved me like I loved them. They were one of the first to turn away from me when I began my divorce, either by their silence or by saying that things weren't as bad as I made them out to be. To say I felt betrayed was an understatement. One contacted me a year or so later, and I remember sobbing on my bathroom floor in gratitude. We made plans to meet for coffee. I was elated. Within a few minutes, however, she canceled. I can only assume that her husband didn't approve. I had seen Nard's text messages to them on Covenant Eyes after his arrest, lying about everything and playing the victim. Even after the divorce was finalized, even after Nard had remarried within months to another single mom, his campaign to ruin me was alive and well. What hurt the most was that this particular friend was raised outside of the cult like me. She understood the outside world like I did, and how non-Christians weren't as horrible as the church made them out to be. In the end, I blocked her. After we moved states and started with the new smaller church, I became close with almost all of the women there. Those I didn't talk to outside of services or interact with on social media were still warm towards me in person. Even now, we remain friendly, and while I don't agree with their beliefs, I respect them as people who genuinely care about others. We may text each other once or twice a year, and sometimes they'll send food or small gifts through my mom, who still attends regularly. When I attend church on the rare occasion to see my kids in a Christmas play or something, I'm always greeted with tight hugs and sometimes tears. I appreciate them. Now that I'm free from the cult mindset, it's ironic how I keep them a careful distance away, much how the old church treated the bus ministry families. I don't want them to influence me. My biggest fear is slipping back into the thinking that what Nard put us through really wasn't that bad, or maybe I was the problem. But deep inside, I know the truth when I can take a deep breath and examine my thoughts. Fundamentalism is a closed system that enables abuse, and insular behavior is an indicator of a cult according to Stephen Hassan's BITE model. When you can convince someone your way is the right way and to hide themselves from others outside of your beliefs, you control them. This also safeguards against leaving. For many people in the cult, they were born into it and it's all they know. Fear of the unknown can be a powerful motivator to remain in a toxic environment, and, speaking from experience, it was one of the main reasons why I stayed in my abusive marriage for so long, excluding the religious aspect. With the encouragement and strength of the true relationships I had, I was able to leave that environment and start learning how to live my life on my own terms. It was a difficult process, and although I lost a lot of friends, I can see now that they really didn't care about me or my children, and, like my ex-husband, our only purpose was to keep up appearances. I wonder, with all their scripture reading, if they might have missed the part about what true love actually is, or if they're even capable of understanding it. That's all for today. I hope you learned something new about what it's like to be in a cult, or that it validated your own experience with religious abuse. If you would like to hear more, please like and subscribe. It helps me reach viewers who could be helped on their own journey. Speaking truth is the first step to healing. Your story is my story, and those of countless others. If you would like to share yours, email me at seasonofheathens@gmail.com. All submissions are kept anonymous unless otherwise requested and may be shared on my channel. Thank you for listening in today. I hope you all have a great week, and I'll see you next time.